And we are back. Thank you for staying with us. I'm in Virginia and we're experiencing a thunderstorm, so the power blinked off for a second. And I appreciate you talking about allyship while I had to blink off for a moment. So now that we finished talking about allyship, now we're going to move on and finish wrapping up talking about microaggressions because I know that that is something that really um, is people have to deal with in the workplace. And when we talk about microaggressions, it's micro assaults, micro invalidations, and it's just so much of micro aggressions that happen in the work. So I'm going to ask Kia, what advice would you give people when they have to challenge a microaggression?
No, great question. So, a couple of things come to mind. You know, for
Mm-hmm.
me, I now truly believe that when you're on the receiving end of a microaggression, I mean, most times I'm going to let the person know how that impacted me and what I observed. And similar to what I did in the story with my former leader, again, you want to stick to the facts. But the other thing is, you also have to determine, is this the right time to address it? Because if you're in a room with a whole team of people and something happens, I'd say one of the most common microaggressions is people get interrupted during meetings. Okay, they're talked over. Some environments kind of perpetuate that, right? Other environments don't. But either way, it can come across as a microaggression or being disrespectful. So, does that need to be addressed every single time in a meeting? Maybe not. But maybe the right thing to do would be to talk to the leader of that team and say, hey, you know what? When I've been in the last few meetings, I noticed that the team is constantly over talking each other. And I'm a little concerned about how that might be received or make people feel. And could it potentially be shutting people down who have great ideas or thoughts they want to share? And if you come to someone in that way, they're very likely to receive the message. Sometimes the public commentary or the public approach may not be appropriate, but I really do encourage people. Sometimes people simply don't know what they're doing, and we've got to let them know. And I know we're carrying a lot, right? We're carrying a lot. It doesn't seem fair, right? That we should always, sometimes, as maybe the person of color or the woman, need to point out what someone else has done. But if they truly lack awareness, we've got to if we want to see change.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. This is a group question. I We talk often, especially in HR, about metrics, and metrics really paint the picture. Um, can you please just, for the people out there, employees, leaders, can you just explain why transparency and publishing metrics, why it really tells the story, and why is it so important?
Hmm.
This is open for everyone.
I would say that when you're being transparent about metrics, whether they are where you want them to be as a company or where they're not where you want them to be as a company, it allows other people to have an insight into what your vision is as a company, number one, but also if you're not on target, what you are willing to do to open up the floor for advice, or what you're willing to do to turn around those not so good metrics, right? So I feel strongly that if you have a company that is literally taking their metrics, putting them out online for public consumption, that they're opening the door for feedback, that they're opening the door and saying to the community at large, however large that community may be, what can you do to help us? We're open to your constructive critique or feedback, and we're here to make things better, not only for us as a company, but our internal customer, which is the workforce, the employees.
Very good. That's a
You
very
know,
good point.
one thing I will also say about that too is, whether you're putting your numbers out there or not, people know just how diverse you are, or just how diverse you aren't. Okay, so your employees can see that, the external world can see that. So I think, like Veronica said, you putting that out there opens the door for conversation. It also sends the message that you're not going to hide, and you're putting it out there for people to see. We've got work to do, people. Here are our numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So many companies keep these numbers
Mm-hmm.
close to the chest and don't want to share. Okay, you can do that if you like, but we can see you. We can see you.
I like to say they're going to show up on Glassdoor regardless. So you might as well publish this. Would you rather publish your metrics and allow someone like a Hive, shameless plug, come in and consult with you, or someone like Silver Hodge come in and consult with you on how you can do better about your inclusion practices, which by default will result in having a more diverse talent pool, because that is what attracts candidates. I've been saying this for the last month and change when Dana and I have participated in panels and have given feedback to clients. It's not good enough to have that one token Black person or one token disabled person on your website, and that is not going to be the barometer that you use to draw in diverse candidates and say, oh yeah, we're a diverse company because we've got this one person on the slide on the front of the careers page. That's not good enough. Be inclusive with everything. Be inclusive with the way your job descriptions are written. Be inclusive with your benefits package. Be inclusive with allowing people to telework and have flexible schedules, right?
Your hiring
everything.
Exactly. Exactly. I think it's important to point out, don't just have metrics so that you can check a box. That is not just a microaggression. That is illegal. This is not about checking boxes, people. You know, this has to stem truly from the executive level down. This starts from the owner / C-suite.
Absolutely.
I wrote an article on LinkedIn about don't just check the box. And that also goes into the DI training. You can't just have training, 1 or 2 trainings, and think that your work is magically going to be inclusive. It takes time to change the organizational culture, and top-down leadership approach. Absolutely. You have to have buy-in from the top, and you also have to have an engaged workforce. You have to have employee buy-in as well, and that takes time. You also have a strategic plan on how you're going to work it, and have champions on the ground who's going to help support that mission and goal. These are all excellent points. And to that point, I'm going to ask Dana this question. There has been abundance of research showing that women are more highly represented on corporate boards and in the C-suite positions to improve organizational culture. When all this research exists, do you think there's still a struggle to see representation in leadership boards? That did not read well. There are not a lot of women in the boards. Let me put that way. Can you please explain, do you think why that is? And when there becomes more women on the boards, do you think we'll see more improvement about inclusivity?
I will be very frank and candid here, and this may not go over well, and I don't care. This will change when, as you stated so eloquently, C-suite and owners own up, if you will, woman up, man up, whatever you want to say there, to the problems that are so rampant within upper executive level management. And to be frank and candid, ready, here it comes. It's white male dominated. So until that fresh perspective gets put into play, AKA more females of color, more people of color in general, you are not going to be a successful company, because you have no idea what it's like to make marketing choices and business decisions that affect all kinds of people and backgrounds. And that's just what it is.
Plain and simple. And Veronica just said it. You can't just have mission statements or pictures on your website that depict what you think diversity looks like, or a person with disability, because I am disabled. I have non-apparent disabilities, and one wouldn't think that I'm disabled by maybe looking at me, unless maybe you heard me stutter all the time, but just looking at me by the naked eye, one may not know. So you just someone who you don't necessarily, you can tell by the naked eye if someone's disabled or not. So you need to have a diverse board by someone's skin color, by disabilities, non-parent, and disabilities. A whole mixture of dimensions of diversity needs to be on the board. Absolutely. And I just think that the leaders, the stakeholders of various organizations who are listening to this live, you're taking copious notes and actually taking it back to your organizations, and you're making effective change, because that is the point of having these interactive discussions, so that it can change barriers and mindsets and actually make the changes in your organizations. Hit like, hit share with that. So going on to the next point, Kia, this point is something that we hear all too often. Black women, often when we speak very passionate about something, we're perceived as an angry Black woman, aggressive when we're expressing ourselves and ask questions. What advice would you give Black women who have been labeled that?
Wow, that's so tough for several different reasons, because I feel like as a Black woman, I've spent my career trying to fit in and conform to different environments and different cultures. And there's a lot of danger in doing that, because if someone's hiring me for my talent and what I can do for them, if I come into their space, their culture, and I don't feel comfortable and valued for who I am, and you know, I actually want to use my voice and share my voice, their investment goes down the drain, just like my morale and productivity will go down the drain. And so what I would say is this: we've really all got to check ourselves, because stereotype threat is very real. So I would want to say and put out there for anyone, when you know that people could potentially hold a stereotype about you or whatever groups you identify in, there's a very real possibility that you are going to go to the other extreme to disprove that stereotype. So if I'm thinking I'm walking into a room and I could be perceived as an angry Black woman, what might I do when I sit in the room? I'm going to sit there. And what excellent idea or thought might they need to hear that I'm not comfortable sharing, because I don't want to be perceived as the angry Black woman? And the thing that really hurts with this, it's not only that the stereotype is out there, but it's that we sit in rooms next to people, well, we used to prior to COVID, but we see colleagues that do the very same thing and use the very same tones and language, but they are perceived differently. Oh, that's how so-and-so operates. Or, oh, they're strong, and you know, they're just strong. And like you said, they're passionate. But if we do it, oh, she was a little aggressive with me. You know, I'm concerned. There might be a behavioral issue. It's not okay. But I think the other thing is, and one of the themes that I'm getting here is, we've got to challenge what people say. If someone puts in your performance review, you're aggressive, and that people do this frequently. They use language that really supports and perpetuates these stereotypes. You're aggressive. Okay, I read this in my performance review, or this is the feedback you've given me. Tell me when. Talk to me about examples. I really want to learn more about that, because obviously I don't want to show up in that way, but give me some examples. That is when the conversation gets very real.
Yes, it does. And if it's
yes, please, Veronica, speak to that.
Speak, sister.
I have been in the situation. I've had that on my performance review. The conversation that happened after that, yes, the conversation that ensued after that performance review went a little bit like, yes, could you please clarify what you mean when you say that I'm being aggressive? The example was, well, you were asked to help out on this hiring event, and your feedback, while direct, came across as aggressive when you said that you didn't feel comfortable dedicating the amount of time to do XYZ tasks when you had umpteen amount of requisitions to take care of as a talent acquisition professional, and you were not going to be compensated adequately. I mean, I get it. We gave so-and-so a bonus, but you can't be aggressive about that.
What?
What was aggressive about that?
Right?
My response was, respectfully, I would appreciate being compensated for my work just like the other person is being compensated for theirs. I do not feel that that is me being aggressive, but that is me standing up for myself and knowing my worth, right?
Yes.
I didn't mean to say that you were worthless. I didn't say you said that I was worthless. I said that me speaking up for myself is only my own self-worth.
Good for you.
Yeah, absolutely, Veronica. Good for you. And Veronica, when we were getting to know each other, if you would, can you please share about some of your experiences that you've had as a business owner walking into spaces, what they assumed, who they assumed you were, and how you've had to let people know
I'm already
actually own this business?
Don't duck, Dana. It's okay. I've been in several situations where when Dana and I have gone to business meetings and someone has asked Dana for her opinion prior to me giving the ending pitch, I call it, right? Because our roles are defined differently within Hive. We both recruit, but Dana's functionality behind the scenes is to make sure that Hive runs as efficiently and smoothly as possible as it relates to revenue. My function is to run the talent side and make sure that the clients and the candidates have a great relationship and that everything is smooth with that process. So when I come in and speak, sometimes clients are not clear that Dana is not my boss. I do not report to her. We are equals within this company. We are shared in our decision-making processes, and that we both hold the line for each other and hold space for each other to speak. And so what decision Dana makes, I back her up in, and then vice versa. If I make a decision or I say this is the price we're going with for the service, she backs me up 1,000%. That is not always clear and apparent to all of our clients, but I think that we haven't had that issue in a long time. So proud to say. Prior to even being a business owner in corporate America, I've actually been in an unfortunate situation where I traveled out of town for a training, and I had feedback to give and information to share within a training session. And I was actually tapped on my shoulder, just like this. Oh, that's so sweet of you to comment, by a colleague. As if what I was saying, see, that's a microaggression. As if what I was saying was, oh, that's so sweet of you to say, or that's so kind, or so good for you, good for you. Yes. And in that moment, I had to make the decision. Do I react negatively? Do I hold on to it because it was done in front of a room of people, 20 other people? Or do I pull that person aside later on and address it? I chose option C. I pulled them aside later on and addressed it, but we had a very healthy and professional conversation about how that came across and what they can do to avoid doing that in the future.
Yes. There are no excuses.
Good for you.
None of us have an excuse anymore to behave this way. We don't. I know I talk all the time. We're human. Yes, our brains are wired to be biased, but you don't have an excuse anymore to show up in the world that way and to lack awareness. It is you should feel an obligation to expose yourself to more people who are different than you. Learn about other people so that you grow your cultural awareness and cultural competency. I'm tired of the excuses. I really am. Good for you, though, Veronica, talking to a person.
Absolutely. And I will say one more point. I'm also tired of Black women feeling like they have to bite their tongue or that they're not capable of owning their voice. Yes, there's a way to come across. There's a way to be professional with everything, right?
Absolutely.
I joke with my friends and say, you have to learn how to speak corporate sass, right? You have to learn, you have to learn those politics sometimes, but it's not because you're devaluing yourself as a person. It's because you are learning how to have the psychological impact that others in your organization have had training to do since birth. You've not had the privilege of learning. So it is okay to own your voice, speak up for yourself, to understand that just because someone is coming across negatively, you don't have to respond negatively, but you do need to speak up for yourself.
Great point.
Absolutely.
You can say almost anything in a professional, direct, and effective way.
Sure can.
You just need to know how, but you can say it.
I'd also like to add that part of the responsibility of allyship and white people in business and in life these days will be to utilize your white privilege to support your fellow people of color. So as I have embarrassingly learned in a couple situations that were just, I thought, standard HR, I would like to apologize to if there are any Agnes Scott young ladies who were in the conversation that I had last year where I was specifically asked by a young woman of color, why do I need to change my natural hair, who I am, to have an interview to get a job? I wanted to cry because I looked at this young woman and I said, you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to. But sadly, to get a job and go through an interview process, you may have to do that. Not that I am condoning this, but that wasn't heard and that didn't matter. And that was on me, right? I'm being a little vulnerable here because it's important to know that not only was that a microaggression on my part, but it was something I knew as it was coming out of my mouth was wrong. And I will never say something like that again because you should not have to do any of that. All that matters is your skill set. And if on paper, your skills match that job, you should get that interview process, regardless of how you choose to wear your hair, your makeup, your accessories, etc.
Yes.
Yes. I'm just going to hop. These have all been excellent points to the phone. Kathy Muhammad said, isn't most communication among men done on the golf course after hours? And then Victor Moody says, damn, this has been lit. These women should be my mentor. Y'all are dropping keys. And Shayla said, per my previous email to one of the comments, that's like one of the key things that we usually say. So people are tuning in and are really enjoying this dialogue. And I definitely am too. What is some of the recommendations that you have for our leaders out there to create a more balanced workforce? We're talking about inclusion and diversity, but what are some tips that you have for practitioners on creating a more balanced workforce?
Such a good question.
It's a great question. And there's so many different things, because when you talk about a balanced workforce, we could just talk about from a representation perspective. We could talk about the environment. Is it balanced in terms of work-life integration? Because I don't know, I stopped using work-life balance a long time ago. I'm just like, we all just need to make it work one way or the other. But I think, although sometimes I feel that surveys can be overused, I think that organizations have to figure out the right way for their population, right? Within their organization, the right way to get feedback from their employees on how they are experiencing the culture, okay? And that's when you want to make change around the culture and create a more inclusive space, because, a survey, depending on how it's structured, can really help you understand, certain issues and give you the ability to focus and hone in on where the issues are, slice the data, understand who in your population is experiencing the issues. So I think you've got to not rush to a training. You have to start at A and then work it all the way through full cycle. If you're missing any step, you've got to have the assessment. because you've got to know where you are, where you're starting, and what you need to work on. Every culture is different. Every company is different. And, you know, they all come with a unique set of issues. So that's one of the main things. Don't overlook the assessment piece while rushing to try to fix a problem and you don't even know what the problem is. So that's the main thing that I would say about that.
Exactly.
Because you have to have all the data points, right, Kia?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would like to talk about something that is not widely discussed. Well, from what I see in talent acquisition, and that's the exit interview.
Ooh.
If you
Oh,
are
yes.
in a situation, if you're in a situation where your company has been losing people left, right, and center, even if your company is having to lay people off right now because of the pandemic, something eye-opening that they can do immediately is have an interview with every person that's exiting, whether they're being furloughed, whether they're being laid off, whether the person is being terminated for performance. It doesn't matter. Do the exit interview. Remove your emotions as the HR person that's doing the interview. Take copious notes. Hey, let me ask you, how did you feel about the benefit package that you had while you were an employee here? Because I will tell you, there are so many situations where we've had conversations, Dana and I have had conversations with passive candidates in our pipeline who are not looking for work at all. But we present an opportunity that offers a more robust benefits package, whether that is work-life balance, whether that is an alternative work schedule, whether that is a benefits package that offers them benefits that they've never had access to as an employee previously, that is going to lighten the load for them in their personal life to allow them to be the best employee that they can day in and day out for our client, right? Those are things that you can find out about during the exit interview process and then turn around, take that to your C-suite executives and say, this is what your people are saying. Well, that person left the company 6 months ago. But this person was an employee and their feedback is valid. So let's take what they're giving us and make it work for us.
I think it's a very valid point, but not even when they're leaving the company. I think all of us have been consultants before. Even when you're leaving a project within a consultant role, I think it's very important. And I brought this up when my previous employer, when I was working for Deloitte, when you're leaving a project, it's very important to see why the consultant is leaving the project. Especially if they're leaving the project early, it's important to capture the information to see why they're leaving the project, because it could be a very good reason. It could be a discriminatory reason of why they're leaving the project. It could be a toxic culture for one reason why they're leaving the project. So yes, I definitely agree with that, Veronica, when they're leaving a project or the organization, to capture the information as exit survey, because you can gain a lot of knowledge, and then you can also develop a plan to fix it. Because one of the things I always say, feedback is actually a gift. A lot of people like to think, I've worked for the Department of Defense for many years. So one thing, when a new commander is coming in, they have to do climate surveys. And a lot of people are like, oh boy, here comes a climate survey. And they think it's like a headache, but it's not necessarily a headache. I view it as a gift, because you don't know what you need to fix unless you get the information. So I view the climate survey, the exit surveys, all of that, even when I'm speaking, facilitating a training, all of that feedback is a gift, because you don't know how to improve unless you receive the information. So I think that's a very valid, excellent point.
That's right. And real quickly, you reminded me while you were talking, one of the biggest mistakes that any employer or leader can make is asking for feedback and then doing nothing with it. Then
absolutely
trust. You have completely eroded trust.
Yes.
So if you're not going to do anything with it, don't ask for it.
I have
absolutely, because that's a lot of what the civilians will say. That's why they don't want to fill out the survey anymore. They're like, oh, we filled this out before, but nothing was done. So why should we fill this out again? Right. And that's a very good point. Yeah. Very, very good.
Yep, absolutely. And another thing that I wanted to bring out before we transition off of this topic is make sure that the people that are at the table with the C-suite executives have a well-rounded experience. You cannot have 4 people from Harvard University that grew up in Cambridge, Massachusetts, with a silver spoon in their mouth, and then you have 4 other people that only know privilege. I'm being real with you, and they don't know what it's like to have to struggle to figure out if you're going to pay Georgia Power or you're going to get that gallon of milk for your baby at the grocery store, right? How far removed are your people that are making these decisions to bring on executives from the reality of the quote unquote struggle of everyday life as a middle class American? How far removed are they? Because if you're in a situation where you're having people making hiring decisions and making decisions on benefits, and they don't know what it's like to have to figure out how they're going to make a co-payment for an emergency room visit for a 2-year-old that's running a fever for the 2nd day in a row, you have a big problem. You do. So making sure that the people at the table can actually understand what all of their employees may be going through and then put that into the decision-making process. Then that's when you really start to affect change within your organization.
Powerful.
For the people in the back, did you hear what Veronica just said? Have diverse perspectives and life experiences at your decision-making table. That's what Veronica just said. I hope it's so important. Okay. I just had to clarify it, make it really simple and plain because sometimes I don't think they understand. Okay. All right. Victor Moody said you were trying to teach her how to win at a game she shouldn't exist. So that was another comment. So right now we're winding down, and I'm going to ask Dana, could she please share some upcoming project that she's going to be working on in the last couple of months of 2020, or some of her final thoughts?
Sure. Veronica and I are going to piggyback this one together. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak about this. Veronica and I and our team have come up with our call to action. We, being human resources consultants, have a real ear to the ground specific to our home in Atlanta where we were founded. And so we have put, as I mentioned, a call to action together. We've seen a lot of lip service. We've seen a lot of people of color on social media saying, okay, thanks white folks for all of that support, ? But please don't use my pain as your PR anymore. And that hits home very hard. Being a female and Black owned company ourselves, our call to action is that we have developed a new for-profit company for a reason called Honey Drips Merchandise. We plan to sell a very simple specialty t-shirt, but we are also partnering with Black-owned businesses in Atlanta and hopefully perhaps elsewhere should this expand, giving them the opportunity with full support from us to be able to have an extra stream of revenue to help them in this significant time of need for a lot of Black business owners. Atlanta being predominantly Black, Black entrepreneurship is the foundation of our economy here. I'm sure there are others very similar, if not exactly like that, out there. And I'm going to let Veronica continue. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So Honey Drip Merchandise came about because, as Dana said, we have seen it. We have an ear to the ground. We have colleagues who are in our networks who have said to us confidentially, I'm struggling. I had to shut the business down. I'm delivering pizzas, driving Uber, doing whatever I can to piece it together at this point, just because I need to pay my bills. And we know that we're very fortunate to not necessarily be in that situation. So we wanted to do something that was literally in action. And what we're doing with Honey Drips is giving these Black business owners revenue that they're not having to use their credit score to get, that they're not having to go and basically prostrate themselves before a banker and have people tear apart their financials just to turn around and tell them, we can't help you. This is literally us saying, here's a check for half of every t-shirt that you sell. That's not due back to us. This is your money. Use it how you see fit. This is what we wanted to do to help you. And when you get back on your feet, if you need us, we are here for you, whatever that looks like. If you need us to refer you to someone that we've been in business with to support your vision, we'll do it. We're not asking you to pay us to do that. This is something that we're willing to do to help you because we know what it's like to go through the struggle. We know what it's like to be a business owner through a pandemic, and we are here to support you, whatever that looks like. Here you go. This is our gift to us, or to you. Sorry. So we did this because, like Dana mentioned, we've seen it where people are saying, "Oh yeah, I want to help," and Black Lives Matter and Black business owners matter, and let's support Black business owners for this one Tuesday out of the month. No, let's support Black business owners going forward. This is something that we can do. We put action behind it. We're only using a Black vendor to support us with all of this. So we are really trying to do our best to walk our walk and not just talk about it.
Wow.
Okay, sounds like a wonderful endeavor. Thank you for sharing that. And Kia, tell us what you're going to be doing for the rest of the final 2020.
Absolutely. No, I'm excited about the next few months. I've been fortunate that my business has been, I would say, thriving, right? The coaching side and the diversity and inclusion consulting side. So I've got quite a few client engagements that I'm working on and will be working on through the end of the year. I'm also really, really excited. In October, I am going to release the second part of my podcast, an interview I did with Philando Castile's mother. I released the first part of it in July. I'll be putting the second part out in October. And then by the end of the year, hopefully just before Christmas, I will be releasing my first book, The Gift in It All, which really, thank you. And I'm excited about it, but the whole message is that even when you are in the worst time of your life, there is always something to be grateful for. And so growth through gratitude is what I'm going to be talking about in the book. And so I'm so excited to put that out there. We need this in the world with everything that we are dealing with. And so that should keep me busy through the end of the year.
You think, Kia?
I think a little bit.
Yeah, for several months.
Absolutely, it should keep you busy. And next month, I'm going to be having another Master Thrive class. And to register, you can just go to www.thethriveclass.com. We'll teach you how to amplify your authentic voice and how to get on some media platforms and make sure your voice is heard. And with that, we're not finished. One more thing, because this is Thursday, we're going to talk about one thing that you learned to be thankful for, even during this uncertain time of the pandemic. And we're just going to start from the top and go to Dana. Can you say one thing you're thankful for, even during this uncertain time, the pandemic?
Okay, I'm thankful for my friendship with Veronica. Truly, she has been a support. She's been my best friend. She's been the best business partner anyone could ever have. I get a little emotional talking about it. I'm sorry. She's amazing, and I'm very thankful for you.
Oh, that's so sweet. I'm not going to get emotional on the show.
Veronica.
Kidding. I will say that my thankfulness is twofold. I'm thankful to have a business partner that will entertain my crazy. I was speaking before the show with Kia, and I was just letting her know, I'm the brains behind all of these wacky ideas, and Dana is definitely the one that implements. Right? She takes what I'm saying, and she's like, well, this is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to make it happen. And I feel strongly that when you're in business, you really need someone that's capable of bringing you down to earth with your expectations and the things that you want to do. And that speaks to not only our friendship, but our bond as business partners, because we both have the vision that we want Hive to be successful and every entity under Hive that we've created in the last almost 3 years. But I'm thankful for that. And I'm also thankful for being in a position where I can be somewhat of a thought leader within the HR community. I am thankful for people inviting us to participate in conversations like this. That's really not only exposing our thoughts and our experiences to the world, but also allowing us to have space with people such as yourself, Zakiya and Kia, where we can have these great collaborative conversations and really expand our knowledge and take things away from the conversation to help us transition our perspective into other avenues of our lives.
Wow.
Oh, thank you. And Kia?
I'm thankful for God and the universe looking out for me. Because even with COVID, even with the losses that I've endured this year, there are constantly examples of how I'm being supported. And I'm just so grateful for that.
That's amazing. And I am thankful that I'm able to use my voice to, and my experiences to impact others. And even though I'm not working for an organization, I'm still able to influence change. So I'm thankful for that.
Yes, you are.
And with that being said, I would like to say, everyone, peace, love, and many blessings. Everyone have a wonderful evening, and thank you for joining us. Like and share this message, and have a wonderful evening. Goodbye.